joint estate, it would have to have a tenancy in common, not a joint estate. Because the rigidity of the joint estate or joint tenancy requires all four units of title be equal and the same. And again, the possession is always 100% by all parties, but unlike the in common, to have a joint estate, come on, Peter, find you. Here's your marker. There you go. So again, in the joint, watch this. Joint. Now, Curly has to have a 1/3 interest. And guess what? Mo has to have a 1/3 interest. And guess what interest Larry will have? The same. Equal and the same. Now, let us go to the main learning point, which will be yours for Sunday. And that is this. Joint estates, by their nature, are created by people who want to make sure the property rights stay within the estate. So Curly, Mo, and Larry are very close to each other. And they want to make sure that the property rights stay within the estate. Should someone pass away, they could still sell their rights to others, and we'll talk about that in an instant. But your knowledge for the class exam is this. The right of survivorship must be stated on the deed. Now, why is that important? Okay, survivorship. I'll explain. Okay, now, Curly, Mo, and Larry are all married to other people, right? Now, let us say, you know, Curly can't sell his rights. We'll talk about that later, not for now. But if Curly were to pass away, even if he was married with kids, his wife may or may not get a condolence card and some flowers, but if Curly passes on, in law, the term survivorship means you bought this property jointly, and therefore, should you pass on without selling your rights, your heirs would not receive anything. The survivors of the estate would have the distribution equally among them. So in essence, if Curly were to pass away without selling his rights, Mo and Larry would get the rights when Curly passes. And of course, if Mo invited Larry to dinner and offered Larry the most delicious steak with Drano, estate and severalty.
So the word survivorship comes from
Survivorship in law means the survivors in the estate,
Yeah.
not outside
Yeah.
the estate. That is why we must define this properly without being sloppy in our learning. So survivorship means in the estate, can't leave it outside. If you do leave it outside, civil court will invalidate because it clearly must state on the deed, joint estate with right of survivorship. If that is not on the deed in the state of Florida, then they become tenants in common automatically. Now, many people ask a couple of questions which have to be resolved. And the questions that might be asked are this. Let's say Curly, Mo, and Larry did have this joint estate. Could either one sell their rights at any time to others? The answer is absolutely. But because the unities of title would not be equal and the same, let us say Curly had a 33% interest, so did Mo, so did Larry, right? And Mo decided to sell to Shep. Now, Curly and Larry would now have a 2/3 interest jointly. Shep would be a tenant in common with right of inheritability, not survivorship. Got it? And that is how joint estates work. Again, there must be a clear, in the state of Florida, note on the deed, joint estate with right of survivorship, otherwise it becomes an estate in common. Anybody who sells their rights in their joint estate may freely do so. The party coming in is now in common while the others remain joint. Got it? By the way, this is a year of law school that we're doing it in Alice.